3, 2, 1. Welcome, Bulldog fans and all Southeastern Conference football fans, to Davis Wade Stadium at Scott Field, where at 2:39 this afternoon, for CBS Broadcasting pleasure, Mississippi State host LSU. Steve, we talked a lot yesterday about the matchups. Let's talk about the game day atmosphere here. I know you just drove in. I finished one radio stint, headed for another, but I'm pretty impressed with the turnouts today.
Yeah, it's been pretty good, and we expect a lot of LSU people to be here, but there's a ton of maroon and white tents here, and maybe because SEC Nation was here a little bit earlier, so you've got maybe a sooner arriving crowd. But yeah, I think Bulldog fans have turned out today, and maybe a little bit better than we anticipated.
And driving around campus to get in this morning early for that radio shift, a lot of foot traffic as well. I think it'll be a fine turnout today for the only October game on the schedule. The SEC schedule maker wasn't very sentimental or kind about that, but that's how it falls. All right. Today, LSU, number 2. Do we know anything updated about LSU's situation? Or are they just coming in? What do you expect to see, really, I guess I'm getting down to? Do you really think LSU will play hot to trot, or are they looking forward already to their matchups with Auburn and Alabama?
Well, I think it's a combination of both. I think that obviously they'll come out. I think they'll attack this Mississippi State secondary early. And one of the things that we've heard, David, we haven't received an official announcement yet, is that Mari Smitherman is likely out for today's game. Could be a game-time decision. That's Mississippi State's number 2 cornerback against a very prolific passing offense. That doesn't bode well for the Bulldogs' chances, but I expect LSU to come out, try to really knock State out early, and then probably nurse the lead along because they do have a big game against Auburn next week. Emotional ball game last week. We talk about it being a sandwich game, David. I don't know that you can even really think in those terms after what happened here 2 years ago. Not to mention, it's been 2 years, really. LSU offensively has not looked good against Mississippi State. I think they see this as an opportunity to kind of make a bit of a statement.
I've always wondered about that sandwich game comment, because isn't the good stuff about a sandwich in the middle? Okay, philosophical question there for another day. Bulldogs coming in. Well, we don't know what frame of mind they're coming in, but the players we talked to seem to kind of relish the chance to test themselves against a great opponent. In one way, you could say they have nothing to lose today because they know they're the underdog, no pun intended in that regard. But they also really want to show fans that what happened last week at Tennessee, what happened in the first quarter at Auburn, was not what this team really is. And they've got a lot to prove, but here's a great opportunity to do it against a great opponent.
Defensive players all week have kind of shared that with us, David. They see this more as an opportunity to kind of size themselves up. It's a difficult week to rally the fan base knowing that you are a considerable underdog on your home field. But, David, I think things are going to be simplified a lot with Garrett Schrader, with Joe making the decision to go with Garrett Schrader. And we discussed yesterday, I don't believe that is a temporary situation. But I think it also makes it a little easier for the old ball coach not to have to manage 2 different brands of offense. I think, and regardless of what other people have said, the offense is simply different. You call different plays when Tommy Stevens is in the ball game. Not having to prepare 2 game plans, I think, is beneficial to Joe Moorhead. I don't know that we see the dividends from that this week, but I would not be the least bit surprised to see this offense have a little more continuity.
Well, not only that, let's think back. This is the first time since week 2 of the season, week 2, that the Bulldogs and certainly the fans knew who was going to be the starting quarterback, because it's been a day-to-day, week-by-week process based off of the 3 injuries that Tommy Stevens has suffered. And talking yesterday, I had a great conversation with Jordan Rogers and Tim Tebow of the SEC Network about quarterbacks, about being a young quarterback, which they once upon a time were themselves. And they love Garrett Schrader. They love his competitiveness. They love his passion. They love his cool way of handling things. They also love his beard, but that's a whole other subject entirely. But they said, again, at this stage, you still don't know what you don't know as a freshman. That can be a benefit in a matchup like this, but he still has so much to learn. The fact is the Bulldogs know who's going to be under center for the first time in weeks. That's got to help their mindset and their preparation going in.
Well, if you go back and think about it, David, the 3 weeks that Mississippi State knew who their quarterback was going to be, the team themselves, UL Lafayette, Southern Miss, Kentucky. Those 3 games, and those are the 3 games I think you can consider the offense probably had their best performance. And not to mention the second half of that Southern Miss game, Schrader is in there getting his first college action, and you put the Eagles away. You expected to do that, but I think he kind of found some things there. And you kind of mentioned, too, what Tim Tebow says about you don't know what you don't know. Against a team like this, you just go play football. You don't begin to think about the tradition. You don't think about the decal on the helmet. And listen, Garrett Schrader didn't grow up in Mississippi, okay? So he didn't grow up with the self-loathing Mississippi State fan that says, you know what, this is how things should be. He grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina. He's just here to play a football game today. And I no matter how it turns out, I expect Garrett Schrader to come out here and put his best foot forward. I don't think he'll be scared in the least.
All right, quick hitters on the game. Today, obviously, the only game in October, as we mentioned, and for a long stretch, in fact. What do you know about today's recruiting visit situation?
Yeah, it's going to be no official visitors, but it's a huge, huge day. The biggest of the season so far. We'll probably have as many as 100 game day unofficial visitors. A lot of those guys from Louisiana coming up to watch LSU play, but the benefit in that is LSU can't sign them all, and so you get guys on your campus. You're able to put your best foot forward and kind of revisit some things later. And there's some state's going to get some of those guys too. And so anytime that you have a chance to get great players on campus, and there's a handful of 2021 guys from the state of Louisiana with 4 stars next to their name that are expected to be here today, that bodes well, because anytime that you can entertain talented prospects, it gives you an opportunity. And I think this atmosphere today helps, and I think a good ball game would help even more.
So, 2:39 this afternoon, CBS kickoff. Mississippi State hosting the number 2 ranked and hottest team in the country, LSU. In fact, right now, if I had to vote, I would say I would rank them and Ohio State the best 2 teams in the country in my own private. But these things have a way of playing them out as the season goes on. So, Bulldogs, in a sense, nothing to lose today, but a chance to show a lot. If they do it, they're healthy. They're healthy, certainly, of their bodies. We'll see what their mindset is coming into this game after a couple of disappointing losses. But that's what we want to see. I mean, I've told on radio, if I had to see one thing today, well, actually 2. I want to see an offense that has a plan and try to execute it, and I want to see the offensive line show that they are not what they were last week. Is there anything that you specifically want to see most out of today?
I want to see the team on both sides of the ball play with passion. That's the main thing. Forget LSU. Forget the 3-3 record. Come out here and play football with your hair on fire on offense and defense and special teams. Go out there and blow somebody up. Don't get a targeting call, but play with some passion. And I think win or lose today, that could be the fuel for a strong second half.
And when Steve talks about playing with your hair on fire, he knows whereof he speaks. I, unfortunately, am headed in the other direction. Mine's more headed for the ice ages at this point. But beyond that, we have kickoff this afternoon. We'll have our full core here covering the game. I take it back. Robbie Falk is still sidelined. We wish him well after his procedure, but I guess he's quarter to quarter at this point, no longer day by day. But, yeah, Steve and Paul will be tracking the recruiting visits and reactions from today. Mike Nemeth will have our flash game story up as quickly as possible. Paul Jones will be providing a sidebar feature, and our game story will be up, as well as our post-game video. So for now, we remind you, if you have any hesitation at all, if you're within distance, please come enjoy the game, because it's SEC football. Come on. Great day. Weather's going to hold off. A chance to enjoy the atmosphere on campus. You don't get another one of these until middle of November, remember. So come and participate in it. Just enjoy the day, because Mississippi State is back in town. It's game day on Mississippi State campus. For our team from James Page 24/7, for Steve Robertson, this is David Murray.